I feel like it came to me. And I think at one point, and I can only speak about black people because I don't know what white folks' families are like. But black people, man, I think that we had to depend on that togetherness because we was trying to move forward. You know what I mean? Like, we couldn't make it without each other. You know what I mean? And I think once black people started to transition from having to be that way and they could go out on their own and make a living for themselves and be straight, it was like, oh, well, I got this. You know what I mean? I don't need that person. I don't need this person because I can get me a house. You know what I mean? I can get me a car and I'm straight. You know what I'm saying? And I think that might be what happened. Black people were coming empowered.
Welcome to We Invest Different podcast. I'm co-host John-Micah Bess.
And I'm co-host Victor Thomas.
And what We Invest Different podcast is all about is not conversations just about financial literacy or investing, but we dive into the things that we'll need in life, like character, integrity, and life principles and standards. And we also get to have conversations with other people who are different and add value to the world.
And what inspired us to start this podcast was seeing the influx of people, investing in the stocks, real estate, Bitcoins, or all the other coins. But, we didn't want to neglect the other side of the investment, which is investing in ourselves and our mental well-being and our character. It's hard to maintain the money that we receive without making sure we're looking within. So we just wanted to make sure we shed light on that part as well. Show us the way. We thank you for everything that you blessed us with. Lord, allow this podcast to be a podcast of you. Guide our tongues and clear our spirits so we can really speak of you. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Tapping in, man. I know this last week, I said that it was conversation 4, but it was actually conversation 3. So officially, this is conversation number 4, tapping into We Invest Different podcast. Mr. Co-host, you know what I'm saying, Mr. John Bess.
And it's your other co-host, Mr. Victor Thomas, the second, not junior, the second.
And it really, man, it's an overall blessing to be back, because today wasn't even promised. Like you said, you kicked off the prayer. I kind of forgot that we even prayed before we got on the podcast. Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, man.
You be on point, man. When I be off, you be on.
Hey, man.
So iron sharp iron.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I wasn't even intentionally trying to have it on there. I just had the spirit to do it, so I started immediately. And then I look up and I see it's recorded. I'm like, well,
that's how it happened, bro. It just happened because as soon as I pressed it, you started praying. I'm like, I was about to, in my mind, it's like, press pause. And I was like, oh, he praying. So, yeah, we believe in prayer. So there ain't nothing wrong with having that on the podcast. Hey, and that's one of the things that separate us because we actually talk about things that most people don't really tap into, bro. Like, if you realize, well, I haven't did much research, but as far as mainstream, social media is large, and a lot of things go viral. But I never really heard people just diving in, talking about God and talking about that positive influence in life. But you was asking me when we was at the gym, man. Before we get started, anyway, man, how you doing? Let's start there. How you doing?
I'm tired, man. Like I told you, man, there's something going on with my sleep, and I'm having these dreams. But it's like I wake up and I still feel tired. So I'm, I know you mentioned something about it being, me still being conscious in my sleep. And how to combat that, I really don't know. So I'm gonna just pray on it, man, because this tired thing ain't the move, especially when you're going to go work out. It's not the move. But other than that, man, I'm grateful that I got something to do. I'm grateful to have things that make me more tired, that are constructive. And, I'm just blessed, man. I'm just blessed, man, with so much. And I'm just realizing, this week is showing me to really appreciate the small things, you know what I mean? The stuff that I may overlook. And I just want to carry a spirit of gratefulness at all the time, man, all the time. Because, man, if we really sat down, no matter what predicament we in, no matter what we got to complain about, it's like, we still blessed. if we really stopped and was like, dang, like even something simple as I got socks on my feet. Like, I've heard that the number one thing that homeless people request are socks.
For real?
Yes, that's the number one thing that they request are socks. You feel me? So the fact that I got socks on, I'm grateful because I could be walking around with no socks, and that's uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So much stuff can come from not taking care of your feet. I'm just trying to remember the small things, but that are really big things. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm at with it, man. Just remaining grateful.
Man, that's powerful. You always dropping something off, man, every week.
Yeah, man.
The reason why he is a co-host, you guys. That's the reason why. Because God be using them. You hear what I'm saying?
All God, man. I take no credit.
For real. And it's crazy you said something about being barefooted, because that take me back to one time I was supposed to go to the gas station to get some gas. And when I drove up there to get some gas, I actually pulled into a parking spot instead of a pump. I did that by accident. I didn't know, well, it wasn't by accident because of how stuff turned out to go. I found out that I was really supposed to park right there because immediately I seen a man sitting right on the curb of the parking spot that I was parking at with no shoes on the seat. And my mind clicked and said I had some shoes that I had been meaning to get out the trunk for about 2 weeks. So it was almost like God had sent me to that gas station to get that man some shoes. I wasn't even supposed to park. I was supposed to be at the pump. I probably wouldn't have seen him if I would have went to the pump and just minded my own business. But because God positioned that without me even knowing, I pulled into the parking spot and got out the car and immediately seen the man with no shoes on. And I was able to give him a pair of shoes, man, to cover his bare feet. So definitely I can agree with that, bro. Like, he was homeless and he didn't have no socks.
Right.
Or no shoes.
Real talk.
So yeah, definitely agree with that, man.
Got to be grateful.
But man, dang, bro, you didn't even ask me how I'm doing.
How you doing, man? My bad.
I was sitting here trying not to just say how I was doing. I'm like, you gonna ask me?
My bad. How you doing, co-host?
Man, I'm doing well, bro. I'm really feeling positive, bro. I'm feeling positive. I have my moments. You deal what I'm saying? Like, I deal with depression on the daily. I don't really talk about that because I have grown to the place where I can cope with my depression. I can cope with feelings of hopelessness and helplessness. So it's like, it'll come and make me feel down for about 10 seconds. And when I breathe, I have to breathe. Once I breathe, I feel my nervous system feels better. I don't know what happens, what exactly happens. I'll do some research on that. But when I breathe, it slows me down and I can feel my nervous system getting stronger. Like, I can feel it calming me. Something is being released. I don't know what it is. I'll do more research about that.
I mean, I wouldn't even do no research, man. Scripture, man. How did God give life to Adam?
He put in a breath.
Come on now.
You right.
Chew on it.
Okay, breath. That is life.
Yes, sir.
That's life. Hey, that's a bar.
Yes, sir.
Well, I guess that's what's happening. Well, it ain't no guess no more. That's what's happening in that process.
Mm-hmm.
When you breathe, your body releases more oxygen. So ultimately, more oxygen is good for the blood and it's good for the body and it's good for your neurotransmitters, which goes through your bloodstream. So that makes sense.
Yep.
That makes perfect sense. But
life.
let's go ahead and dive into the topic, bro. I know we've been rambling.
Oh, and then I just wanted to add something to that.
What's up?
Like, when I was running today, I noticed that when I'm running, if I only focus on my breathing, like, you know what I mean? If I zone in on that, it make it so I can keep going.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's weird. But time I get to thinking about I'm running, I get to getting tired in the mud, boy. But if I'm like, breathe, just focus on breathing. Like, oh, I'm hitting it. You know what I mean? And I ended up pushing myself a little bit more today than usual.
Yeah.
You feel me? So that breath, man, there's something powerful about it. Something super powerful about it.
Wow, bro. I ain't even know I ain't think about it like that.
Yeah.
I ain't even think about that like that at all, because in reality, that is true, bro. He breathed into man the breath of life. So by us breathing that's really saying you're full of life.
Mm-hmm.
So when we don't breathe, like, that's just like when a man working out. We used to think we are stronger when you hold your breath. The heavier the weight, the more you hold your breath. And it's like, You dying. You're not breathing.
Right.
So why do you think that you're gonna be stronger by not breathing?
Right.
Oh, that's kind of insane.
It's absurd.
But into the topic, bro. I wanted to talk about community. And like in my heart, I feel like community is a very important thing, and it's a couple things that I want to talk about community. It's a couple questions I want to ask that we can discuss. And one of the questions is like, as I look at family, right? Like how family is set up, and like in today's society, and we can look at our family, for instance, like we don't have much of a community, but a family is supposed to be a community. A family is something that's together. A family is something that's supposed to be a unit. A family is something that's supposed to be harmonious. But like, we used to have that connection because I feel that family is a community. And because family isn't necessarily defined by blood.
Right.
It's about the relationship. It's about the commitment. It's about the grounds of which you had set your relationships on that determines what the relationship is. So you don't necessarily have to be blood for me to call you family.
Right.
So I'm just saying that the essence of the word family, I feel, it breeds community.
For sure.
So I wonder, like, why is it becoming a tradition of families being individuals? Like, we got the same last name, but we really not family. Like, we got the same last name, but we not family. We not communing together. We not unified. So I wanna, like, that's like, why is that? Why, like, what you think that, like, why you think that is? Like, just think on that. Like,
yeah, that's a tough one, man. I would really have to think on that because I don't know where the disconnect occurred, just in general. Not even speaking to our family, but just in general, man. I don't know where. I don't know how that happened, bro. I haven't a clue. You got any idea?
Bro, I'm sitting here thinking because we had to be there at some point because we had sayings like it takes a village to raise a child.
Right.
Where did that come from? So it used to be a sense of community, but I feel like a lot of distractions came into play with individualism. You know, because then you got the ego. Because okay, now let's tap into the pros and cons of community. I think that's where we can start at. We can start there to break this down. What are some of the pros and cons of having a community? And one of the pros, and I'm gonna give one pro and I'm gonna give one con. Mm-hmm. One of the pros that I see of building a community is the ability to thrive.
True.
You thrive as a community. That's a pro. Now a con is that you have to sacrifice yourself. You know, you have to sacrifice somewhat of it being all about you. So, but see, that's what makes a family though, the togetherness of it. So I think that's the con. Now it's kind of a positive and a negative, but I just use it as a con because it's still like you have to give something up. It's still a sacrifice. So that's why I put it in the con column. But it's kind of 50-50 because I feel that if everybody is on that same page and everybody is agreeing on that selflessness, then I don't feel like it's a con. It's I mean, ultimately it's gonna end up being a pro.
Yeah,
I just had to make that distinction.
Yeah, I feel that.
So like, what you think, like, as far as like a pro and a con, when it comes to community and family? Like, what are some of the two things you got?
I think a definite pro is just having a plethora of minds to pull from on how to handle life. You know what I mean? Somebody might got experience of this, or they might have experienced something like that before. You can reach out. Like, that's a resource. You know, I'm going through this. You went through something similar. What should I do? What's the wise thing to do? What would you suggest in this situation? And I think a con could possibly be, I don't know, man. It's hard for me to come up with a con, man, because there's so much good that come out of it. But I guess a con would be same thing as you said, selfless. Being selfless, having a sacrifice. You know, putting somebody else before yourself. But like you said, it's not a con. But
But that's the only kind of downside I see, but it ain't really a downside.
It's not at all. It just might be a little uncomfortable for a second.
That's it.
But it's worth it.
We tapping in.
Yeah.
We tapping in.
But see, as I thought about, when you said what you said, or when we was trying to figure out what happened, I feel like it came to me. And I think at one point, and I can only speak about black people because I don't know what white folks' families are like. But black people, man, I think that we had to depend on that togetherness because we was trying to move forward. You know what I mean? Like, we couldn't make it without each other. You know what I mean? And I think once black people started to transition from having to be that way and they could go out on their own and make a living for themselves and be straight, it was like, oh, well, I got this. You know what I mean? I don't need that person. I don't need this person because I can get me a house. You know what I mean? I can get me a car and I'm straight. You know what I'm saying? And I think that might be what happened. Black people were coming in power and, getting complacent in that power and not recognizing that it's more work to do. Because I see that being a big thing in the black community right now. Just thinking back to the 70s. You know what I mean? Them black people weren't in slavery no more. They had came up, but it was still a fight to do.
Right.
And it was a strong fight. And I think now, black people done got a little comfortable, man. We got a lot more rights and we can get the same money, but, it's still more work to do. And I think we kind of missed that. And in order to do that work, we got to come together like they've always done before us, the people before us. But I just think, I don't know, it's hard to do anything about people being comfortable with where they at. It's hard to tell a person, we got more work to do, when they sit back like, no, I'm straight. And that's been going on even since the slave days. When you think about it, it's like, I ain't trying to run away with y'all. I'm good here with massa.
Yeah, and that's the bigger picture.
Come on now. And I think that's what's going on. People, like, I'm straight. Some people don't even care if they, it's not even in their thought process of how the next generation gonna be. You know what I mean? They living for themselves.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Because
it began to be a disconnect, because a lot of our struggle came from just money.
Yeah, for sure.
That was like, I say, bro, if not 100%, bro, 90% of a lot of our problems stems from money issues. Yeah. So when you was able to go to work and be free, like you said, that problem was resolved. Now, even though you wasn't rich after you went to work, you was still okay because where we came from.
Yeah, it's better than what my grandmama went through.
Right. So that gives you a sense of, I'm
we
good.
made it.
Right. So it's like, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like, damn, I still walk down the street and see a lot of poor black people, or dang, I still see this going on in the community, that going on in the community. Like, we still got issues, even though per se you yourself may be fine. And I think that's what I was talking to you at the gym earlier about. The podcast I was telling you about, I Am Athlete podcast. Mm-hmm. And on one episode with J.R. Smith, he was trying to explain, like, I'm lost. I just don't understand, like, because they could not play. The NBA had them locked down. They could not play basketball. Mm. But it's so many people who are financially successful in the NBA who are black.
Right.
It didn't make no sense for us to come together and have a place to go play basketball and not being controlled and giving somebody the power to say what you can and cannot do when you are the one who's funding their operation.
True.
Like, if every black person pulled out of the NBA, don't you know the NBA wouldn't exist?
Truly.
Like, who would make up? Would nobody look at the NBA then? Like, we make these people, we make these leagues. The NFL is the same way. We make these leagues, bro. Mm-hmm. And we have the money. So, but that takes us back to the point that you made. It's because everybody got the bag now.
Yeah, they cool.
Everybody got the bag, and it's like, if my family is straight, then I did what I was supposed to do for my family.
Right.
And that's good. But it's just hard, bro. It just feel it's hard, and we can't put the responsibility on one person.
But I mean, I get what you're saying about not putting it on one person, but I think it has to be on some people. You know what I mean? The people that have that heart to want to do that, they gotta pop it off. Cause even if I found out probably about like a few years ago, when they still going on, but all the police brutalities the black people was going on, I was looking at something, and they were saying that the civil rights movement wasn't that big. It wasn't a lot of people willing to go into them streets, you feel me? In comparison to it wasn't like every black person, it was a lot of black people like, shit, I ain't going out there. Yeah. Let them dogs bite me, spray me up, I ain't going out there. But you see how powerful those few that did want to do it were.
Right.
So I think it just take, the people that got it in their heart, the people that got it in their mind to want to make stuff better, keep moving forward, they got to stand up. And some people just going to jump on the bandwagon, you know what I mean? Some people just going to, and that's good too. Bandwagoners are cool. But I think as far as like, moving forward and keeping the progression going and, having a sense of community, it's just the people who got it in their heart got to build it.
Yeah, you're right, bro. They got to act on that purpose that's brewing. Because it's like sometimes I think a lot, like, why do I think the way that I think? It's not by chance. God knew that he was going to have to put some people on the earth to think like that.
Right.
Because like you was just talking about the civil rights movement. And I believe I've heard bishops in our church even mention them, like, God had to have something to do with that. Like, that's not normal. Like, what MLK did wasn't normal. Like, normal people don't do stuff like that. You just said that. Majority of the people was like, I'm not finna get sprayed. I'm not finna put myself in harm's way. But
I got this good job. I got to be to work in the morning. I'm straight.
Exactly. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I also feel that God put people on the earth for that. Like, to carry the torch. Like you was just saying, we do need those people who's willing to step out there and actually be on the front lines of the fight or whatever the cause is that we standing for.
Yeah.
And I think they are in the earth, but we just got to act on that. So speaking of that, since we talking about building community and we talking outside of ourselves, so let's bring it home. What can we do and what are we doing to ensure that we build our community and continue to do that?
I think the first thing to do is to work on ourselves. And that's what we doing. You know what I mean? I remember this dude my age told me a long time ago, and it stuck me. I'm talking about this was an ignorant nigga. You know what I mean? Like, on all the dumb shit, cuz, for real. And when he said it, I was like, damn, buddy, you just said that. But that shows you that God can use whoever he wants.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But bro said, and it's simple and everybody done heard it, you can't help nobody until you help yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because I was the type, back then, I was like, man, black community need to do this. We need to do this. I just want to help. And he told me straight up, because he knew my situation. You know what I mean? He knew I ain't have nothing like that. You to be trying to, doing all that whoop de whoop. He said, you can't help nobody until you help yourself. And that's real talk. So I think the basis of our podcast, investing in our minds and our well-being, you know what I mean? That's first, because that's a shining light in itself.
Yes, sir.
To inspire other people. Yes, you know what I mean? Just the fact that we might just be having and it's so simple, we might just be having a conversation. What you did today? Oh, nah, man, I went and did this, went to the gym. That's a seed being planted.
Yes, sir.
Just from folks seeing how we rocking. And that gonna inspire somebody else. You feel me?
Right.
Like my lady. Like, she initially inspired me to start going to the gym. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I go to the gym twice a week. And, she kind of laxed up because, life happens. But now from her seeing me, she's coming up off that lax and being like, I need to go to the gym 2 times a week just from watching me. You know what I mean? And being dedicated. So I think once we invest in ourselves, the true inspiration happens for other people that'll kind of get them on board, and the consistency. Because don't nobody want to be a part of nothing that's not going to be consistent.
Right.
You know what I mean? Subconsciously. So I think that's the very first step, making sure We are spiritually sound. We know how to be consistent. We know how to be selfless. We know how to give back. You know what I mean? And then, okay, let me show you the game. Let me show you how to do this. Let me lead you through this. So just start with us first, man.
Bro, you can't even give no. Bro, that was the best answer that could have been given. I don't even have it. You put it all there because really, like you said it all. You can't help nobody unless you help yourself. So I put that as number one for sure because you really can't be genuine. You really can't be genuine and honest without being your best self. Because if it's some type of negative energy coming out of you, it's gonna be falsehood. It's gonna be some cap. There's gonna be something cap that's gonna come up when you're on negative energy.
Real talk.
But when you start working on yourself and reinforcing the thoughts that come to your mind, you start catching on the things and you start growing little by little. And like you said, you start influencing others.
Right.
That's in your space. And that's what I'm talking about, like in our spaces.
Yeah.
Like I know we can't, I don't want to say we can't because anything is possible. But I'm just saying, like, I'm not talking about us reaching 1 billion people because that's not logical right now.
Right.
But in our respective communities, the people that are here right now, the people that we see on the daily, the people that we run into, the grocery store, the gas, anywhere, if we just be an example and spread love, I think love is the key to unity.
Yes, sir.
So all of this, the key of building a community and building a strong family is God.
Yeah.
Like if we all, two can't walk except they agree. We all got to be on one accord.
Right.
And I think a lot of us is going all of these different type of ways, and that's the reason why we can't really build community. So after working on ourselves, the next step would be to actually, what was I saying?
Start reaching out to people around us. Right?
Love. I was just talking about that love. So after you work on yourself, and if you get that love, which is, love is God, and when God is only one, like you can't separate God. So if everything, if the center of what we're trying to do is for the benefit or for the spreading of God, then I feel that we'll be more connected. Because like I was just saying, two can't walk together except they agree.
Right.
So the reasons why, okay, that's why I was. A lot of us just going all different type of ways. You know what I'm saying? Like one person feel like this, one person feel like that. And like, it's okay for everybody to have their individual feelings, but it's a problem when we can't accept people's feelings.
Yes, sir.
And it causes conflict, and it causes even more separation and division, which is going to help us make it even harder. It's going to make it even harder to build community because we got so many small conflicts with one another.
Right.
But if we focus on love and peace and righteousness, I just feel that although we'll have challenges, although it won't be easy, I just feel like overall we'll be in a better place, period. I'm not, like, we can't put a number on it, but we would definitely be in a better place if we was unified with the love that we need for one another. Because it's like, a lot of times we overlook what our brother or sister are feeling. We don't respect people's feelings, and that's why a lot of us can't communicate. I'm speaking personally, I'm being transparent, like having problems with communicating. That comes from, not communicating.
Yeah.
Not communicating harms your ability to communicate.
Right.
And I think we miss that. Like, the more you do something, the better you get. We have to apply that to every single thing in life. Not just school, not just work, not just, the little social media thing, posting consistently. No, like, we got to apply that to everything in our lives.
Yeah.
The more you do something, the better you're going to get.
Yeah. And really know how to communicate.
Yes.
Like, one thing I try to stand on is listen. Listen more than I talk. You know what I mean? I don't care what situation I run into. I'm listening more than anything. And I think that's one thing that people miss, because it's hard to understand where a person coming from if you're not listening. And listen, and actively listening. Like, I'm talking about breaking down what they saying and it's a skill. Read between the lines. Listen to them talk, but also pay attention to what they not saying in their statement. And you can really grasp how they feel about something. Like, pay attention to their tone. You know what I mean? When they talk about something. And one thing I had to get out of was thinking about what I'm going to say next. Why are they talking? You know what I mean? I got to be fully engaged in what they saying so I can really receive it. And I think that's a part of the love right there. Like, I'm really concerned.
Respect.
Exactly. Just like when people cook food. You know what I mean? Somebody that can cook real good and you know it's gonna be busting, they paying attention to them pots. You feel me? They not, I'm gonna turn this on and I'm a half-ass check on it. Like, no, I'm in this pot.
Yeah.
I'm tasting it every few minutes. I'm checking on it. I'm setting my timers. You know what I mean? I'm engaged in what I'm doing. And that's the kind of food that tastes so good, soul food.
Yes.
Because they giving love to it.
Yeah.
They giving attention to it.
Yeah.
So that's how we got to treat our conversation, just like cooking food. You know what I mean? And you want it to be good, you got to pay attention. Make sure you giving it just enough. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. So
thank you for that. I needed that.
Yeah, man. When we do that, man, you'll see, man, like, dang. And then also what comes with that is like, you'll start seeing how most of us are so much alike. Like, we walk around and we think that I'm going through this situation and don't nobody understand. But I promise you, like, if you're going through something right now and you gonna knock on probably like 3 doors in your neighborhood, maybe one, you're gonna find somebody that's dealing with something similar as you. I guarantee it. But it just take listening and being transparent, man, for real. Cause we all going through something. And I think that's where the unity come from. You know what I mean? Noticing that we all are the same. We all are the same. More than we are different, we are more the same than we are different. For real.
Whoa, that's like a universal statement right there.
Yeah, man.
They go for racism. They go for everything.
Racism, yes, sir.
They go for every single thing, bro. Because God created everything under the sun. Like, everything came from God.
Right.
So it's just our own beliefs and our own mix-ups that get us away from what God has us to be. But I really took in what you were saying, man. And it sounds like, I need to start including, listening is a part of communication. I don't feel like you can communicate effectively without listening. Like, people go to therapists to talk to the therapist. But when you go to a therapist, you figure out that the therapist talk less.
Yes. They sit there and just ask questions and you be talking away, man. Real talk.
But a therapist, I'm saying though, like, the essence of therapy is talking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you would think with you going to a therapist that they would be the one talking to you because you the one who need the lecture. Mm-hmm. But you ended up talking to them, and they listening 80% of the session.
Yeah. And I think that's because the therapy game, I don't want to say therapists because all therapists ain't great.
Right.
But I think the whole concept of therapy, God is in it. And the truth of the matter is, every problem that we going through, cuz, the answer is inside of us already.
Yes, sir.
We just got to work through it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find myself at the house talking to myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Talking about whatever was going on. And if I just talk about it or talk to myself, talk to God, however it works, the answer will come. We don't always have to reach out to find our solutions.
Right.
I think that's a mistake that we make, even with drugs or alcohol. You know what I mean? Like, I understand people got different reasons for drinking and smoking, but for people that's out here like, oh man, I feel so bad, I need to get this.
Yeah.
It's like they reaching out. Or somebody that's like, oh, I feel bad, I need to reach out and get some alcohol. Oh, I need to reach out and fuck somebody. You know what I mean? They not looking within. All the answers are in us.
Yes, sir.
Like, it blew my mind when I was in astrology class in school, man, and the teacher said, you made out of the same stuff as the stars in the sky.
Oh, yeah.
That opened up my mind. It's like, everything is in me. It's already there. What do I need to reach out for if the answer is me? God wouldn't put me in no situation that I'm not equipped for. It's not like God saying, go out there and deal with this. I don't know how you going to deal with it. No, God knew when we was born, before we was born. He knew that was going to happen, and he was going to make sure we was going to be ready to deal with it. Yeah, it might be a little uncomfortable, but we got what we need in us to deal with it, man. And that's so beautiful. And I think when we hold on to that, it make it a whole lot more easy and simpler, man. So we ain't got to reach out.
And it's powerful, man. The I am.
The
powerful I am, man.
Yes, sir.
The I am, bro. I can get to preaching because there's so many different places we can go within this topic. Mm-hmm. But going to the next part of our episode, we do this segment every week, man, because we want to tap into what we learn. And our objective is to always learn something so that we can release some things that somebody else can take on as well. So with that being said, is there anything recently, man, that you learned that helped you and that you know if you said on this podcast today it will also help our listeners?
Yeah. One thing I learned, man, is self-control. Having that self-control, man, is not a one and done. It's an all life journey. You know what I mean? Because I find myself, I might be riding down the road and I'm like, yeah, I've been working on my self-control. I'm good. I ain't got to snap on nobody, but I might be in some traffic and somebody do something stupid. Self-control out the window.
Whoa.
So it's more work for me to do. I may have felt like I made it to this point, but I got to constantly grow in that. I can't just be like, once I get to this point, I made it. No, man. It's practicing that self-control is forever, man. I think I really had that realization this week that it's not just a one and done. For real.
Woo, woo.
Real talk.
Yeah, I'm guessing I'm one of the listeners. Cause for real, man. I just learned something from that. I really did just learn something from that because you talking about me. That's literally, I have been working on self-control too. This is not a part of what I was learning, but I was just saying that I also noticed that because you can think that you're good in one area and think that you're all good. It's always levels to grow.
Yes.
Always. You always got levels to grow because just because you're good at washing cars don't mean you're good at vacuuming. You know what I'm saying? You might be a beast at washing the outside of the car. Mm-hmm. But you're not finished yet because you still got other parts of the car that are important.
Yes, sir.
Like even with the rims. Like you got people that wash the heck out of your car but don't know how to do the tires.
Right.
So it's all about, like we was talking about, that harmony. That harmony. Like life is supposed to be harmonious. And I think a lot of conflict comes from life not being harmonious, even with our brains. And that's why I'm gonna go to the thing that I recently learned about depression. I don't mean to. I bring mental health up. I'm a mental health advocate, so I love it. It's what I do. So
that's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. You ain't gotta apologize for that.
Excuse me. So okay, now I was studying, the different things about depression, and I love the brain. I'm so in love with the brain because life begins with the brain and life ends with the brain. That's another thing I learned too. Man, see, all of this stuff is coming up. I did some research about the brain, and I learned that when you are an embryo, when you in the womb, the brain and spinal cord are the first things to start forming. And also, after your heart stops, the brain is the last thing to lose function. So the brain starts and ends. The brain starts and ends with life. You see what I'm saying? Life starts with the brain and life ends with the brain.
Right.
So that tells you how important the brain is, which is why I'm so interested in it. It's the element of life.
Yes, sir.
So another thing, when I was researching depression, I learned that depression usually comes from two parts of your brain being, not communicating the right way. Now, you have what you call the prefrontal lobe. The prefrontal lobe is the place of the brain where reasoning takes place. It's called the logical part of the brain. Then you have what you call the limbic, Limbic, The limbic part of the brain is the emotional part of the brain. And that's where the part of the brain is where your emotional is controlled, like your responses and all of these things. So when there's a miscommunication between your logical brain, your logical thinking brain, and your emotional brain, that's when things happen. Like there's a malfunction when there's a miscommunication there. So that's how, when the emotional brain is got more energy, when it's more things happening with your emotional side of the brain, is overpowering the reasoning part of the brain, you can see what's happening.
That's here.
So I thought that was that sealed, man. I'm talking about that opened up so much for me,
bro.
It really showed me the connection of everything, bro.
Yes, that explains a whole lot.
And like you remember we was just talking about harmony, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are at your best when those things are in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
When your logical brain and your emotional brain is synchronized.
Right.
You know, because your emotional desires might not be what your logical brain is wanting, but you have to have a balance.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I learned, bro.
That's good stuff. That's powerful. Like I said, it explains a whole lot. Cause soon as somebody get mad or I get mad, the logic over with.
What?
It's over with. I don't care if it don't
Oh my
matter.
God.
And then after I got myself in the predicament, it's like, dang, I wasn't thinking. You know?
And see, that's the thing, okay? And that's why I was saying that it's so important, that the harmony is so important, because a fact that I ran upon from my studying, what I just learned, it said that 80% of people react from their emotional brain first. Mm-hmm. They use the emotional part of the brain more than their logical part of the brain. So now you see why depression and anxiety is one of the most common mental illnesses. Mm-hmm. Because that most of us already are overtly emotional.
Right.
So, yeah, bro, this is coming to a close. One more thing about mental health before we get out of here. Announcements. We're going to go through some announcements. First announcement is Mental Health 10 Minutes. Mental Health 10 Minutes is sponsored by Financial Fashion, which is a cause that is bringing awareness to mental health, because we seen that stress is one of the leading causes of chronic physical, and chronic mental health issues. So if we just take 10 minutes a day to focus in on ourselves, take a walk, go outside, get some sun, take a run, walk, or a jog, this will help you this will help your stress management. So that's the whole goal. Mental Health 10 Minutes. So get your 10 minutes out today, and you can post on social media using hashtag Mental Health 10 Minutes. Also, don't forget to check out our store. We have some positive apparel with some great messages from Financial Fashion. You can go and visit fnfstore.com. That's fnfstore.com. Anything you have left, CMO?
Oh, nah, man. I just want to say, man, remember God all day. Remember God all day long, man. And I promise you'll see the effects, the positive effects for sure.
Amen. And we coming to a close of conversation number 4. And we'll see y'all for next week for conversation number 5. We love y'all. Thank y'all for listening. And we out.
Gone.